Let's talk about one of the most powerful numbers in the entire economy. It's a number that affects your wallet pretty much every single day. It's called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI for short, and really, it's the official scorecard for the cost of living. You know that feeling, right? Maybe you got a raise at work, but then you look at your grocery bill or the cost to fill up your car, and it seems like those prices went up even faster. It can feel like you're working harder just to stand still. So, how do we actually measure that feeling? Well, to answer that, we've got to look at the official tool that economists and governments use to track the price of, well, pretty much everything. See, this isn't just a hunch we have. It's a huge economic question. And the system that's designed to give us a clear, hard number is found in just three little letters. And the answer, of course, is in those three letters, CPI. So what is the deal with the CPI? What is it exactly? Okay, so here's the official kind of textbook definition. It's a measure of the average price change for a basket of goods and services that people buy. But what does a basket of goods and services actually mean? Here's a much, much simpler way to think about it. The CPI is basically just a number that tells us, on average, how much more expensive it is to live our lives today compared to some time in the past. That's it. And because of that, it's pretty much our number one tool for measuring inflation. So when you hear on the news that the inflation rate is up or down, they are almost always talking about the change in the CPI. So what's actually inside this imaginary basket that the CPI is tracking? Let's, peek inside and see what we find. So this basket is basically designed to be a stand-in for what a typical household buys. It's got everything from the food you buy every week to your rent or your mortgage, the gas for your car, and even things like movie tickets. It's really just a snapshot of our collective shopping list. But here's the really clever part. Not all of these things are treated equally. The CPI gives more weight, or importance, to the things we spend the most money on. So, as you can see, a big jump in housing costs is going to move that final CPI number a whole lot more than a change in the price of shoes. It just makes sense. So, how do they calculate it? Well, the idea is actually pretty simple. They pick a base year, and they just decide, okay, the value of this basket is 100. Then, every month or year after that, they calculate the cost of that exact same basket of stuff and see how the new number compares to that original 100. So here's the key. If the CPI today is, say, 130, it just means that the same stuff that cost you $100 in the base year now costs you $130. So that's a 30% increase in prices since back then. It's that simple. Okay, so it's a number that tracks prices. Big deal, right? Why should you care? Well, it turns out this one little number has a massive, massive impact on our financial lives. I mean, the CPI is the backbone of some really big economic decisions. Central banks use it to decide on interest rates. Governments use it for cost of living adjustments for things like pensions. And for you and me, it's the absolute key to understanding our own purchasing power. And look, here's the bottom line. If the CPI goes up by 5% in a year, but your salary only goes up by 3%, you've actually taken a pay cut. Your money just can't buy as much stuff. Your purchasing power has gone down. And that's why this number is so, so important. Now, the CPI is incredibly powerful, but it's really important to remember that it's just an average. It's a fantastic tool, but it's not a perfect rule that applies to every single person. For example, sometimes you'll hear about something called the WPI, or Wholesale Price Index. Just think of it this way. The WPI tracks the price of stuff at the factory level, like what a producer pays. The CPI, on the other hand, tracks the price at the retail level, what we, the consumers, actually pay. That's why the CPI, which also includes services like haircuts, is a way better measure of our actual day-to-day cost of living. And yeah, the CPI has its limits. Your personal spending habits might be totally different from the national average. It can be a little slow to add new gadgets and products. And it really struggles with quality. I mean, is your new phone more expensive because of inflation or because it's way better than your old one? The CPI has a tough time with that. So it's a great guide, but it's not a perfect mirror of everyone's experience. So let's bring this all home. Let's make it super concrete. What does all this CPI talk really mean for your wallet? Think about your own life. Let's say last year, your big monthly grocery trip cost you 5,000 rupees. And this year, for the exact same stuff, you're paying 5,500. Well, that 10% jump, that's your personal inflation rate for groceries. The CPI is just doing that same math, but for the whole country, across that whole basket of goods. So let's just do a super quick recap. The CPI tracks the cost of everyday life. It's our main yardstick for inflation. It influences huge government policies, our wages, and our pensions. But most importantly, it tells the story of whether our money is stretching further or shrinking over time. And that leaves us with the one question that the CPI is really designed to answer for all of us. When you look at your own budget, is your money buying more or less than it did last year? The CPI gives us the official data, but now you know exactly what it means for you.